in front of the entire world at the KICC and announced that he was going to support Ruto. He didn't care that Ruto had murdered hundreds of Gen Zs after the protest, during the protest, and in days after that has perpetrated a systematic abduction of young people, disappeared them, tortured them, and continues to kill many of them. Raila didn't care about that. Raila didn't care about the real grievance that led to the Gen Z revolution. The fact that the Gen Zs, more than 65% of them, highly qualified, young with a lot of energy and vision, are unemployed. And there are no reasonable prospects that they will get employment this year, next year, the year after, 10 years from now. That is not in the plan of these power barons, the bandits in Nairobi. And the Gen Zs could see that and said, look, we own the country. Kenya does not belong to William Ruto. Kenya belongs to 56, 60 million Kenyans, 65% of whom are Gen Zs or younger. These are the owners of the country. These are the people that the future belongs to, not the renegades, not the old people that have looted and are going to die in a few years anyway. But no, Raila did not stand with the Gen Zs. Raila did not stand with the future. Raila stood with his stomach. Raila stood with his greed. Raila stood with his conmanship and arrogance and said he was going to join Ruto in cracking down on the critics of the government. That's point number 3. Having betrayed the Gen Zs in the face of a vicious, most humane and cruel, barbaric crackdown, having betrayed the Gen Zs who had shed blood while campaigning for their rights, having betrayed the Gen Zs that were just about to lead an overhaul, a complete transformation of the Kenyan rotten political system, having betrayed the Gen Zs that were leading the revolution, Raila Odinga could not be elected in Addis Ababa, because that would be a bad betrayal for the entire Gen Zs in the African continent, which is probably 70% of the population of the African continent, billions of people. The African Union is supposed to be the body that symbolizes, that epitomizes the unity, even if it is rhetorical unity of the African continent, of the African people. And that unity is supposed to be unity of purpose. It's supposed to be unity of a vision for a freer, a more prosperous, a liberated African continent. It's supposed to be a unity of values or in values. Values of freedom, values of liberation, values of prosperity, values of love, values of everything good. It cannot be values of theft, values of looting, values of plutocracy, values of tyranny, values of barbarism, values of retrogression, values of primitivity, values of torture, values of abduction, which is what Ruto symbolizes in Africa today. Ruto is an existential threat to all the positive values that Pan-Africanists stand for. Raila Odinga is Ruto's chief facilitator in Kenya, in the African region. If you want to understand how Raila Odinga is so corrupt and a con man, look at even the way that he relates to the regional leaders of Africa. Take the DRC. Raila Odinga was supposed to be the greatest friend for Felix Tshisekedi, who is the president of DRC Congo. He wanted, and he was actually doing smuggling of Congo's minerals, gold, diamonds. Raila Odinga is a multi-billionaire, okay, in dollar terms, because of corruption, because of smuggling, because of money laundering, because of plutocracy that he has been engaging in. So he's a friend of Tshisekedi. Tshisekedi has visited him, even at home in Karen. But in the recent past, Raila Odinga has been supporting Kagame, who is being backed by the Western imperialists to destabilize Congo so that they can continue to loot Congo's minerals. So you can see that he doesn't care about friendship. He doesn't care about the fact that the Congolese have been suffering for the last 60 years. He doesn't care that the West don't really give a damn about Africa. Trump doesn't give a damn about Africa. And all the Western leaders don't give a damn about Africa. They care about how much they can extract from the African continent. In fact, if you listen to Trump recently, he said he wants South African white, the Boers, the people who perpetrated apartheid for 100 years, the people who have looted 90% of the land in South Africa and the minerals, and who have never worked, who have treated black people like dogs, even worse than dogs. In fact, black people in South Africa are worse than domestic dogs in South Africa. The South African domestic dogs, the dogs in South Africa belonging to white people, are fed better, are housed better, are treated better, and are considered higher in terms of hierarchy than the African black South African. Trump said he wants to give a free, although he's saying everybody should leave the United States who came to the United States illegally, the only group of people that he would allow, without even requiring them to apply for a visa, is a South African Boer, a South African white. Which means that to Trump, black people are not human beings. Anybody other than white person is not a human being. And he said, white South Africans will be able to come to the United States without a requirement of a visa. But all the Africans that are in the United States who should be given a visa because they immigrated there, they're contributing to the economy of the United States. And by the way, 90% of the people working jobs that are building and have built the economy of the United States are people of color, Africans. The United States became rich because of slave labor, African slave labor, free labor. Slavery built South Africa, built the United States. The skyscrapers you see in New York, Los Angeles, okay, that you see in Chicago and some major US cities, these were constructed by Africans without payment. They did it without remuneration. They did it while living in conditions worse than conditions of a pig. Trump's father and grandfather, great-grandfather, came to the United States illegally. They came out of European prisons and were given two options. You either stay in Europe in jail or you go to the Americas. And that's the only freedom you can get. They opted to sail to the Americas. This land, North America, does not belong to white people. It belongs to indigenous Indians, the so-called First Nations. So don't buy this BS of Musk and Trump that somehow they own North America. They don't. They don't have more rights to North America than Africans. So if they can claim North America, Africans have the right to claim North America because they built it, okay, with their blood. So I was talking about South Africa and Kenya's position vis-a-vis South African liberation and freedom. During the struggle for apartheid, Kenya supported the white supremacist apartheid system in South Africa. Kenya did not contribute 1 cent towards the South African struggle. Kenya gave refuge to South African Boers, the whites who are oppressing South African blacks in South Africa. Kenya did not join Tanzania to train, to give logistical and material support and military support like the frontline nations, countries like Zambia, Zimbabwe, and after Mozambique became independent, Mozambique, Angola. No, Kenya did not participate in that. Kenya undermined and subverted the liberation struggle in South Africa. And don't think South Africans have forgotten that. South African blacks have not forgotten that. And please don't give me this nonsense about, look how they are treating us. They call you